20?
20.
Session
Session 20.
Session
What was the
20.
name you gave the last one?
It wasn't Meddling Kids. It was.
No, it was.
I think it was something like
a debrief interlude.
I didn't get the pun. I didn't even read it. Yeah, a debrief interlude. That's good.
You weren't looking for the pun?
I don't know if anybody saw the Session 20 prep that I posted, but
I did.
I will.
I did.
Well, that's
Dave
good.
did,
I did.
and he conveyed it to me. So
No,
I was mentioned by name. Of course, I read it.
I opted in this one to take some of Mike's advice from Once Upon a Time and say, you know what? Sometimes the levelers don't have to have roles; they can just have choices. I don't know if I got good choices or not, but choices there are. So we'll begin with that. Hey, Roddy, it's been a heck of a Saturday. You didn't expect to end up on the wrong side of the HHL. You didn't expect to be so done with Powertronic. Part of this problem, I could not get the homeroom map up, so I couldn't remember your buddy from when you were younger, but I couldn't remember his name.
Problem Child.
Problem Child. Well, maybe part of you did. It's hard to totally ignore that Powertronic's kind of a tool you used to get in arguments with Problem Child about it when you were a kid. You definitely didn't expect to be waiting in the nurse's office with Gothwitch with a long silence and time on your hands for thinking. More thinking than you really want to deal with. Lots of thoughts bumping around your head. You're not really a planner. It's not super fun. Pick one. Option 1, Cynic Edginess is so 2019, but I was really good at Cynic Edginess. Or less brain, more heart. What do you think?
Well, I was really good at Cynic Edginess, and still am. However, Roddy is the definition of less brain, so.
So you're going with less brain and more heart?
Yep, it is a horrible decision too.
Less brain, more heart. Swap mundane and superior.
So I swapped my +2 superior for my -1 mundane.
I couldn't get to roll 20 today, so I couldn't actually see if this. I thought that was kind of what would, roughly speaking, would happen, but I wasn't sure and I couldn't check. So there you have it.
And then I have to assess my situation with my guilty condition.
Oh dear. Then assess the situation with regards to everything going on. You've got time to think, but you're all emotional and stuff.
Is there a love letter for me?
There's only the love letter for Roddy on this one.
I just confirmed because I figured Dave would have told me if there was one for me. We're talking about some other stuff.
Since
related.
Since Mike missed the last one.
No. I remember we talked about it last time.
Yeah, so we're love lettering him back in with this. So.
Yep, and I don't think I have anything that'll help that. So here we go.
Maybe Gothwish can help that.
Oh, that is
You get extra XP?
Wow. That is a...
Oh dear.
That's a 0. That is a 0. It's quite remarkable.
I ticked my XP.
You should. Wow. So a 1 and a 2, and a 1 and a 2, and then subtract -3. Whoo!
I gotta live with subtracting -3.
But only rolling 3 at the beginning is...
No, subtracting a negative is positive.
Oh, right. Subtract, you're right. Sorry, adding -3. Fine. Don't math at me, man. Okay. All right. Basic moves. Here we go. Let's get into roll superior. Ask 2, ask 3, ask 1. All right. Let me get in here to sync. I need to look at your... Okay. I don't think this is actually... This actually fits really nice. So Gothwitch is there. She's doing a little bit better. at least than she initially was when she had her first like sort of tearful like recounting of everything that happened. Because that was not super fun. Not least because was it Selma? Did want her to know that, like, once she got there, she's like, we've received word, like, you know, everybody survived the attack. Not everyone's doing well, dear, but, you know, they're all in hospital, and it's all thanks to you. At least as far as I understand it. So you should feel very proud of yourself and everything that you were able to accomplish. Which, I don't know how well that lands, but it does feel better than she thought, like, a bunch of people died. And she gets this little furrowed crease between her brow, and she's like, all thanks to you. Like, she has no idea what the old lady is talking about. Okay. So you guys are sitting while she went to go fetch, like, the school nurse, and she's got some organizing to do for Gothwich, so she had some place to stay at the school and all this other kind of thing. So you're kind of there by yourself, and you're kind of trying to. There's the awkward silence stuff, and so part of you is sort of dealing with that awkward silence business. And another part of you is trying to process just everything that has happened and trying to sort of decide exactly how totally screwed you are. And figuring out, like, even what's going on, because apparently that was Golem, and Golem was this thing, and then apparently your friends got in some kind of tussle with Sigrun the Valkyrie and Blackbird and all this other kind of stuff, but Golem must have been looking for some of, apparently what they were talking about in the plane was Golem was looking for some of the artifacts from Kiln's people, except it wasn't really Kiln's people, it's the people from before Kiln's people, which are really old, and that's connected, and that might be Joe's thing, and all that's kind of going around in her head. And you're trying to process this, plus everything that's going on with, like, just the fact that you're sitting right next to Gothwich, and you're kind of heroic before, but now you got to actually think about the words that you're saying, and that seems awful. And she, for whatever reason, doesn't, or for some reason seems to think that you're going to have answers. Okay? So,
she thinks you're going to have answers. She thinks you won't have answers.
She thinks that you're going to have answers. And she keeps asking you stuff, and interrupting kind of like everything that you have kind of going through your head, and everything. Every time you start to, like, sort of get a bead on what's going on, she keeps asking you questions. I'm trying to find something here. And is getting increasingly frustrated by these sort of absent, like, I don't know. Like, okay, what do you think happened to Golem? I don't know. Well, what do you think they're going to do with Golem? I don't know. Well, do you think the HHL is going to be mad about us? I don't know. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. And it just keeps going like that. And she's getting increasingly frustrated, and you're getting increasingly frustrated. And, eventually it's like, well, why were you guys there? And what was, what do you mean Powertronic? Why did he invite you and all this other kind of stuff? And just don't want to talk about any of it. And she finally steps like, well, what do you know, Roddy? Like, do you know anything? Should I go and ask your friend Alex? They seem like a planner. Should I ask Kiln? Like, they actually know like what's going on here? Should I ask Joe because he apparently can get in there and actually, fight things that are this tough? Should I ask Matt because they all seem to want to check with her with like what's going on and what she knows about stuff? I mean, what do you like? I mean, you came down and got me, and you didn't do like they all backed up your play, but it doesn't seem like why did you come and get me? Did you even know what you were? Did you have a plan? Because it doesn't seem like you have a plan right now, and it doesn't seem like you're like. Do you just get into a problem really bad and then they come in and rescue you? Is that the plan? Is that what you normally do? Because that plan sucks. And if that's the plan, just let me know because I can go and ask them for help a lot easier than asking you for help and just having you turn around and going back and asking them for help. That takes a whole step out of it. And you don't have to do anything. And I mean, we reading the book and having the distance of 20 years past high school, mumble 20 years, I'm being kind to myself, can look at that going, well, she's snapping because she's stressed and he's blah because he says, but I mean, come on, 14, 15 years old. She's just being, you just rescued her and she's being a bitch about it. I don't attribute too much self-awareness to Roddy, not because he's Roddy, but because Roddy is probably doesn't have that level of vision on all this thing. But she is definitely kind of calling you out with the, kind of actually, I just now occurred to me and probably, it feels very familiar because it feels a lot like Tahi's what even is the point of view thing. Like, what are you doing? What do you do? Like, why are you here? And it's that again, different. And you can tell even as she's saying it, she feels kind of shitty about it because you did rescue her. But at the same time, she's still kind of like super stressed out and snapping. And it doesn't matter whether, how she means it, because the simple fact of the matter is it stings a little bit and it sounds a hell of a lot. That's the second time that somebody has said something like that to you. She is going to actually, these words are going to shift your labels again, or attempt to, and move your mundane down up again and move your superior down again. What do you think?
Oof.
And she's kind of getting teary, like her eyes are shiny and wet, as they say in the books. But certainly it's so she's emotional and stuff. But the words hit hard and make you feel a little bit ugh. What do you do?
Oof.
I wouldn't normally do, but that was 0, so I'm kind of.
No. Be hard.
Yeah.
Be harsh.
And she's pretty harsh. So I feel like this is as harsh as I need it to be. I don't need that.
So, I feel like So, oof.
I feel like oof.
No, I saw what Bill wrote, and I was like, no, Bill, no.
So somehow the roll next to it, it's like, oh my, it's like, yeah, when it has that big 0 sitting next to it, it kind of really feels.
Yeah.
I'm just setting the lower bounds for how badly Roddy can piss her off. That's all.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that. I can aim higher than that, hopefully.
How to set the low bar. I like it.
Anyway, so.
Yes.
I feel like because there's that thing in reject someone's influence. I'm just sort of thinking through how I would how it would look if I succeeded. And
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
depends
like,
a little bit about what you do because I mean, if you do the one where it's like immediately act to prove them wrong, well, that's you. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but that's one of the classic things is like, well, I'll show you and get up and stomping out and do something rash and unplanned, which was rather her point.
Oddly enough.
Yeah. So I mean,
No, I
there's a
was
lot of
just
ways
like-
you could shake.
no, I was just like, would immediately acting to prove them wrong in this scenario be actually talking about things?
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
We could take. I yield whenever possible to how you interpret it, and honestly, me and my son have talked a lot, actually using PTBA as kind of an example of the idea of that like sort of creativity within constraints. Like this is a thing that you're doing, but how you decide to express that can be very
Just
different every time.
Yeah, I was just trying to think, is like, does that sound right? You know what? I feel like it sounds right.
Yeah.
We're gonna give it a try, and we're gonna do horribly at it.
Okay. So resist someone's influence. Do you have the the condition that interferes with that?
I do not. I also do not yet have the delinquent move for it.
Oh, that's all right.
So, we're gonna roll.
That's fair. Bloop. Bloop, says the bloop.
I turned it around.
Oh, look at that. Oh, double sixes. Boxcars. You gotta love that. Gotta love that. All
I
right.
got a 0 and then a 12.
That's,
As far apart as you can possibly get.
I mean, yes. Really. Okay, when you check someone's influence, roll on a hit you successfully held on a 10 plus, choose 2 of the following options. Choose 2.
Yep.
You first of all, you do not shift the label. I mean, she wanted this label shifted. You don't do that shift. So mundane, I think, should still be at a 2, and then your superior at -1.
Yep. So I'm going to do the opposite.
Okay.
Get my superior up to a 0.
Okay.
And then I think it's time to prove them wrong by is this going to be like, Ratty's going to be like, get that furious look in his face and be like, just sort of stop, be like, no, not going to go with what I'm thinking, and just be like, look, I know you feel really bad about everything that's going on. I feel really bad about everything that's going on. I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I get like 2 or 3 seconds worth of foresight. That's all I do. Long-term planning is something I am very bad at. And I am getting more and more used to the idea that that's a very bad thing. And it is, kicked my butt more times than I can count at this point. So yes, if you think that is a better plan for you, go long term to talk to them rather than talking to me, I support you in that. But don't blame me for that.
I don't want to. I don't know. I don't know what to do. This is really like I didn't really know about being a hero anyway, and this is not how I expected it to go. And it's like all wrong immediately. And I figured you'd know because you broke into the HHL and got me out. That's pretty. I just thought you might know what to do next.
But I do know what to do next. And it's like he's gonna
She
slip.
kind of
a
she
hand-
she does like the kind of like lean back a little bit and kind of okay, like
and Roddy will lean forward to kind of like match that and be like, "We're gonna talk to my friend Alex, who has all the plans. We're gonna talk to Met, who knows future stuff. We're gonna talk to
Okay.
Kiln, who knows all of the magic stuff. And if need be, we'll get Joey if we need punching or poetry."
Poetry? Really? And now,
You haven't been in creative writing, have you?
so the question I have is, do you guys like immediately get up and go do that? Because having her trail you out of the room going poetry makes me happy. Or you can just be doing that while you're sitting there, and Selma can walk in while you guys are still talking. I mean, do you leave her like going, where did they go? Or do you wait?
It's Selma. She'll know where we went anyway.
Well, that's fair. Yes, that's both fair and accurate. So yeah, so are you leaving or what is the move?
Yep, I think we're gonna we're gonna see if Gothwitch is gonna come with, and you gotta take that as like a comfort or supports maybe, like in a roundabout method.
Yeah, I can see that. I think, yeah, I don't know if I'm not going to probably use the, I mean, it wouldn't make much sense, honestly, to do the comfort and support menu as such, but I like the idea of doing a comfort and support just to see how this all lands with her.
Okay.
And I think the thing on the table is sort of like you picking up influence, like you kind of, it's been implied. I think she has influence over you based on stuff that you've said about sort of what Rowdy thinks about her. That's the direction I've gone, but
Nope, that perfectly makes sense.
yeah, and I think I think that's maybe what we attach here a little bit is some more of that stuff. So, yeah, why don't you do a comfort and support? I mean, might as well use the mundane while you've got it.
Yep. We're gonna see.
Bloop. What do we got? That's a 10.
I got the thing.
That's pretty good. All right. So comfort and support. Shift level is a 10 plus. You can also add team to the floor. You can clear condition on yourself. And let's attach this to something that she says. She's like, I mean, I'm sorry. Like you guys are walking down the hall, and she's like, yeah, I'm sorry. It was hard. This is hard, and I don't know. I don't remember rescuing anybody, and that probably means that my powers got out of my control. Which isn't exactly scary, but is super lame. So that's kind of part of why I was being such a bitch. You did really, honestly, you were awesome, and thank you. And I'm going to say that a couple more times because I'll probably forget later when you're pissing me off. But for right now, you were awesome, and thank you. And I don't know if I can help you guys with whatever it is that you've got going on, but I'll try, or I'll be honestly, I just want to talk to people who seem like they know a plan and have a plan, and it seems like you guys do. So just thanks, and sorry again for being a bitch. Sorry.
That's okay. Now, so that you remember how cool I am, let me tell you about how I got past Blackbird at the HHL. And this all starts when Blackbird was fighting the Red Huntsman in 2012. And then just keep walking.
That's awesome. I love that as a thing. That's really, really great.
Of course, the irony here is that the idea that we've got a plan is
exactly. No, absolutely. Yeah.
No, I'm way ahead of you here.
I mean, using the collective we to say that everybody has a plan, probably inaccurate. If the we is meant to simply indicate the team or members of the team,
I never said we had a plan. I said we have people who can make a plan.
We have
That's
the potential for a plan.
We have like 12% of a plan.
Somebody somewhere on this
at the
green
moment.
and beautiful planet of ours has a plan.
Yes. I mean, just taken by population of team, you have probably, I would say, 20% of a plan, since Alex is 1/5 of the team. Anyway, so you guys are at the glorious Fortress of Attitude, and we'll just move everybody over to the Fortress of Attitude so we have it. Possible Gothwitch doesn't see how it doesn't immediately see how awesome this is. But she covers it well. She covers her confusion, as well as she can. Well, that's definitely not what I wanted to have happen. Okay, so Gothwitch, Roddy and Gothwitch walk in. Guys, and I'm pretty sure we ended here, yeah? It's been 2 weeks, but I'm pretty sure that's where kind of we all were. Discussions being what they were. We'll assume there's food. What all are you guys talking about when Roddy and Gothwitch show up?
Man, we gotta come up with a plan.
I love it.
That is the stupidest plan I've ever heard of.
Oh, that's almost as good right there. That's super funny, honestly. Anyone?
I'm going to say that we were trying to figure out how to trigger Met's visions without having some kind of traumatic experience.
Oh, yeah.
I will be right back.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Let's, since that's kind of what we're talking about, how is it if you're okay with this, Margie, how about we can start sort of with you sort of explaining in Met fashion, if she's inclined to, her concerns with trying that, or what might go amiss, or just kind of, because you'd said it, I think, in group, but you hadn't necessarily articulated, I think, to the group kind of what you might be worried about there. If
Okay.
that makes sense. If that makes any kind of sense at all.
Sure.
So, also lets me recall it. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's been 2 weeks.
well, Alex had suggested flashcards to see if it triggered something, and Met was concerned that either it wouldn't work, or that it would work too well and be overwhelming.
Right.
So he's trying to explain that that at this point I really don't know what triggers the memories, and just how frustrating it is that you get these little glimpses, and you may see a little bit of something, but that it doesn't necessarily, it's not always useful,
Right.
but it does seem to allow us to influence that future, with the example of Sarge being a good one. So in the end, I think she's willing to try, especially in someplace safer, like down here with her friends around her, rather than in the probably more than a little bit nerve-wracking presence of Hellbinder up in the headmaster's office, as it were. So
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely something she's worth taking a chance on and trying, especially since she has her friends around her to support her. So that's kind of where I'm going right now.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like it. It's even I mean, Joe was pretty knee jerk sort of against the whole idea of like sort of Met as guinea pig, but it's got to feel pretty nice for her to show that sort of trust of, well, if it's with my friends, it'll be, I'm okay with trying.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between, hey, yeah, let's sit her down right here and start feeding inputs and see what sort of output we get, versus, okay, if worse comes to worse, we've always got, pizza and Coke Zeros to pass around. And
Indeed.
Hey, I was promised chicken tendies.
Like, if there's an actual conversation to be had here, like Alex will be happy to contribute their side of it.
No, go for it. This is expressing the willingness and concerns that Met was facing.
Okay, so I just want to say that debriefing, which is kind of what I was talking about earlier, it's never like super easy. The point of debriefing is to get useful intel or information from somebody who formed memories under traumatic conditions. Like, that's exactly your scenario, as I understand it. So it's supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to be safe. But it's turning kind of that chaos of being in a high stress situation into something that you can use. The way that one of the senior agents described it was, it's like an exorcism for the memory. Like you have this demon haunting you of, in your case, what's the future hold? In most people's cases, it's like, I was just through this thing, and it's kind of laying that demon to rest.
But this doesn't involve, like, heads spinning around or anything.
Only metaphorically.
It's not as comforting as you might want it to be, but so somewhere in there, while you guys are sort of pondering all that, we'll have sort of, well, okay, actually, let me back that up, because this could have been happening for a while the thing with Roddy and Gothwitch. So we could have Roddy and Gothwitch showing up right now, or you guys could try and do some of the memory stuff and having Roddy and Gothwitch showing up like in the midst of all of that stuff, mid-exorcism, if you will. Although that's probably not the imagery exactly.
That works.
Which one
Pizza,
works?
we compel thee.
What's that?
By the power of pizza, we compel thee.
I think that we would have been down there long enough. I mean, so I think that it makes sense for us to sort of be in the middle of the conversation, and that gives, Gothwitch and Sync time to have their conversation and work their way down. So they don't come into like pregnant silence or something like that. For
Sure.
Arriving.
Okay. Okay, so, and Alex, since this is your kind of your suggestion or something like that, like if you got a vision here of how this bit might play out, my thought, which isn't exactly the memory jogging thing, but kind of serves that purpose, plus get some things out in the open that may or may not be out in the open right now from Matt. Might be, I kind of like the idea of going around from each person and like sort of having them ask knowing that she remembers something about this present as her past and is apparently trying to avert some stuff, having everybody each ask her something that may be the burning question in their mind about whatever it is that she remembers. I kind of like that, both because it's like, how does all this affect me, or tell me about the part that I care about the most, as that kind of thing, and then having maybe some of that trigger some more memories jostling loose. But that's just my off the cuff thought. So you have another idea. I'm actually like a improbable number of ears. So I am a greater than 100% number of ears.
Well,
So,
there's really two aspects, here. One is the kind of, filling in of the memories, like who somebody will be, so that sort of remember somebody, aspect, which would fill in,
sure.
the things. There's also sort of the kind of more generic investigate the timeline kind of thing, as well as some things that help support the team in terms of what's going on. And then there's 21st century studies and applied history, both of which kind of are more used in the as moves, as opposed to sort of kind of background. So I mean, those are all things that can help. But I think what it sounds like we were going towards is doing the remembering somebody, trying
Yeah.
to trigger who that last person on my memory list is.
I can see where
Uh,
somebody's question might trigger 21st century studies. If they ask a certain thing, but I mean, I'm more thinking like the remember someone thing might sort of come either when somebody sort of asks directly, well, like, okay, so who's blah blah blah, or am I in the histories, or whatever, or just coming at the end of the whole thing, whereas other questions that people might have might just be you kind of answering, just free form. But again,
yeah. So there's a there's a little bit of not really comfort and support. Well, I guess it is in some ways. If you talk about how they're different than you thought they would be, then you can add to the pool and ask them if they if you represent a future they want, kind of a thing. What I'm thinking is if we started with something like, remember somebody, that would kind of help fill out that list, and then that can drive sort of the next moves of focusing on the team and the team's role, or focusing more
sure,
on like who's on the list, right? And
right.
what that means, which would be more of a investigate the timeline, 20th century studies kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if Alex opens with, here's an org chart of all the people that we've been interacting with lately.
I love that. Just the fact that you would have it, honestly, I love. But
Well, because that particular move is specific to a person, and so it's
it doesn't.
more like pushing myself to remember a version of some way that exists in the future. So basically it's then if it's a hit, then I get to tell them what I get to decide what role they are, and if it's a miss, then the GM takes over to decide
Sure.
their role, or whether or not I don't even know them. And just so you kind of understand the kind of the origin of her hesitation, is that every time she does this, she has to mark a condition.
Right.
So that's part of that kind of enacts the trauma of it. So but I think it would be great if we went ahead and did that to try and see if we can identify a person. And I think maybe if we do it less in terms of sort of a random org chart, but more in terms of, if we look at these people and I talk about who's on the list, and we try and determine sort of, kind of in a Venn diagram what other people they have in common, that would be probably a good place to start.
So the people that you have on your list, you're saying like your memories list, or what did
Yeah.
you? Okay, all right, cool.
Because I don't think I've shared all of them with everybody.
All right, that's cool.
Um,
We don't necessarily have
so-
to go through each individual thing because people can.
Yeah.
I mean, the players
we can
know,
see.
but we can kind of go through and like. So you
I
guys.
don't know if I remember all of them, but
So just real quick, we have on the I'll say the negative side. So the monster is Alud, and we had that memory in the museum. The traitor is Gollum, which came up last time. The corruptor is
Nega.
Nega. The martyr is Sergeant Surge, and the architect is Tahi. And the one that I have to fill still is the leader.
Of the, I guess, sort of the positive side of the.
It's I mean,
equation.
there's six aspects, and that's the one that's left to be filled. So I don't know if it makes sense for Alex to kind of, like I said, create some kind of probability matrix of, overlap between those people, and we start there. And obviously, some of these people, I flashed on them when I first saw them, like Tahi, and others. It wasn't until I saw them do something that caused me to flash on them. So
Right.
it doesn't necessarily have to be people I haven't met.
Right. Well, and so a couple other things that I guess almost just me as player pointing out. I mean, Gollum's kind of like you say, Gollum's sort of a new addition. Nega's Corruptor is interesting and is kind of like you got to wonder how that happens because, he didn't seem like a particularly evil guy, and also what does that mean, the Corruptor? Aliad and Sergeant Surge, both being on there, are a bit interesting because I feel like there had been some talk about Aliad and Sergeant Surge having some sort of connection technologically speaking.
Yeah.
She was,
Elliot was
she's like a
kind of
clean copy of
created.
Surge or something.
they
Yeah.
were yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
So that's
Uh,
interesting because they're on two sides of this whole thing.
the martyr and the monster.
Indeed.
And the other thing that all fits in with that is sort of a general lack of in intelligent automation in the future,
Right.
and not being a thing, as it were.
Right. And whatever badness happened with regards to all of that, it seemed to have been to a greater or lesser degree, I guess, in this time, like something bad was attempted, and Elliot had a part in that, and somehow Nega had a part in that. And you guys,
it's also related to that whole conscious transferring process. Yeah.
right, and the
Misuse of that technology.
and the fact that Golem has a part in that, given what's happened to him and how that connects back to Flubus, is not great or awesome, and so that's kind of crazy. But yeah, there certainly seems to be a connection there of like, well, we don't have automation. It's because we stopped this thing. So I need to, but we need hopefully, if we can make it not happen at all, then maybe some of what happened with my future doesn't happen. And I'm also 100% in favor of that. So you guys have probably got like the names kind of scribbled up on some crappy, like the crappy whiteboard over here or something, kind of sketching things out. And
Usually it's reserved for rude cartoons.
yeah, with random sketches and whatnot. I mean, that's about when. Well, I shouldn't say anybody comes in here necessarily, but what else? I don't know how much is necessarily news to anybody, but some of the things that if you guys are playing association stuff with this, like Sergeant Surd and Elliot being on opposite sides of things is weird. Elliot and Tahi being on opposite sides of things is a little weird because they've been talking in classes and stuff and seem to be getting along like a house on fire. Which is not something that Met was aware of. And I'm not even sure. I mean, raise your hand if you're the one who pointed that out, or who would have like kind of spotted that. But it doesn't seem ominous until you have this extra information. Or even if it is, I don't even know if it necessarily seems ominous. It's just it's not even really noteworthy. It honestly seems to make a certain kind of sense. That they would have something in common, I guess. But hey, people jump in, ask questions, anything like that, because it's the questions that hopefully move us along toward what we might hopefully find out here. I mean, Joe, do you have? It seemed like I think you were aware early on that Met had some doubts about you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Or yeah, I don't remember what it was. Some question about me.
Well, it was a question about you, but she certainly seemed to think that you were dangerously unstable, or just dangerous.
I think that was just the.
It was It was certainly one of the
initial
questions or anything, but I don't know if that's something that Joe maybe takes this opportunity to go. So how does this tie into the fact that you treat me like I'm gonna like snap and do something horrible? Or that kind of, I don't know if that's, but this is maybe the time for the airing of questions of whatever of any type.
So, at one point, it really seemed like you thought that I was going to, snap or do something dangerous or something like that. Was that part of any of this, or just something I did, like that?
So I have to admit that I can't see where I have that written down.
I believe that was during the initial character creation.
It's the
Yeah,
question.
I'm just not seeing it on my character sheet, which surprised me. And maybe I have it. I probably wrote it down, not put it in.
Yeah, it's probably not in the
Thing.
character sheet.
See if I wrote it on this piece of paper.
I opened up to her about the worst parts of my past.
So in the relationships, I marked that Joe turns away from the hero's past according to your history books. You have to prevent that from happening.
I see. Okay. So that's not necessarily about the. In fact, it isn't. It's not necessarily about your timeline that you're trying to alter stuff. That's just something about Joe that you recognize. And so knowing that and have him bring this thing up, like, what do you do? Like, how do you respond to that kind of question? Because it's not part of this. You know,
Not directly.
it's not part. It's part of your like. I have future vision by virtue of having past vision. But it's not
And
like it's not part of the timeline thing. It's not part of this thing.
well, I mean, I think it was sort of more related to that, kind of idea of that, that they're different from what I expected them to be based on the history I know, and so that's, it's, 50% likely it's something they did, but 50% likely that it's just history, not necessarily being accurate in how it portrays things, right?
Yeah.
So,
So what I'm curious about is how do you respond to him though? Like when he brings this up because it's a little awkward.
I think, what I would probably say is something along the lines of, um, when I first met you, all I knew was the you in the history books. But now that I know you and consider you a friend, I can see how the, history books, unfortunately, have probably misrepresented you because of prejudice against things that are different and other, and how it's very easy to, interpret as, someone who is different being bad versus actually taking the time to understand what may or may not have really happened.
That's not necessarily encouraging. Uh, um,
Also,
was there?
apparently you're in her history books.
Yeah, in a way that people judge me negatively. Um,
Super fun.
would you feel comfortable about telling me what I do in your history books?
Um,
Wasn't a simple answer. No pressure here. I'm sure it's just like some madcap stunt on on Broadway.
You said the wording of that. I'm just want to clarify for my own thing because I have a thought about this in the back of my head. Is your history books say he leaves the path of the hero? Is that how it's said? Interesting. Okay. Filing that away. He said. Not to interrupt because you were asking, or Joe's thing is like, do you feel comfortable talking about that or telling me more?
Clearly, he's dying to have you tell him more. Terrified of what you might tell him, but also not wanting to put pressure on you, but also like
really wanting to put pressure on you.
I think on one hand, she very much wants to just say, something along the lines of, well, obviously, obviously they got you wrong. But I think instead, I'm going to tell the story of Sergeant Surge, who, in my history, in my future, during the event with the the oh so precious bus full of nuns and small children event in the gym gets blamed for endangering kids, and that because he's on a probational status, that it's seen as a severe enough negative that he is used in part as a scapegoat by those who don't trust, understand, like people with meta powers, with superpowers. And because we were able to disrupt that, those consequences didn't happen. So there's I have to believe that our history is different now based on things that have happened, but I also know that Surge was never the villain that he was presented as in our history. So I would say that it the what I know of the event involves excessive property damage and seeming unnecessarily violent. But since I know that's not you, then obviously history doesn't know the whole story.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah.
And I look him straight in the eye and I say, that is not you, Joe. Now or in the future.
Right. Next question. Unless you're trying to do a comfort and support or some sort of influence on me.
I don't know. Do you have anything besides angry?
I like how she's not even going to try to get rid of angry.
Yeah.
I can get rid of something as long as it's not angry.
You would think, given that little bit of history, that would be the right thing to get rid of. But
I mean,
at the moment, I just have angry.
I like it as
that's my secret. I'm always angry.
I mean, I like it as a comfort thing. It's a little bit clinical, but it's still something.
Basically, what the move says is, if I confess to a teammate the difference between what you thought they would be and what they really are, I add team to the pool and ask them if
team move.
ask them if you represent a future they want. And if they say yes, you mark potential. If they say no, you mark a condition. So it's not really comfort and support. It's a little bit.
Yeah, it's a different. Okay. When you confess to a teammate the difference between what you thought they would be and what they really are, add team to the pool. So this doesn't have to be like in character. The question simply posed is, does Met represent a future that Joe wants? Which?
Is Met, or is the future that Met is describing?
It's kind of weirdly phrased.
Ask them if you represent a future that they want.
Make sure I type that right.
Yep.
When you confess to a teammate the difference between what you thought they would be and what they really are, add a team to the pool and ask them if you represent a future they'd want. If they say yes, mark potential. If they say no, mark a condition.
So taken more broadly is like, does the future that Amet sort of amorphously represents, I guess, for you, something that you like the idea of or don't like the idea of? Or you can take it in a slightly different way and go, do you want Met in your future? You know, which is a different question, certainly, but
That's a different question with a different
with a different answer, right?
Because if the question is, does a future where the history books show that I did something that involved excessive property damage and violence, a future that
Which is not what she said. She said that Surge's thing was excessive property damage. Then she said that's not you. She
said that was not me, obviously, but she said what she knew of the event related to me was my impression was that it involved excessive property damage and unnecessary violence. But since she knew that obviously wasn't me,
I think she's being this is not a judgment. I'm observing that Met's being very coy about what she's saying and not saying about what she knows about your thing. You're reading this to go, she's talking about Surge's thing as a way of it not being the same, and you think that she's talking about like your own property damage, and that's I didn't read that was what she said, but if that's how Joe takes it, that's fine with me. Obviously.
I mean, I was trying to confer that, and the phrasing is kind of odd. I mean, because I think what Met was trying to say is that the first future she sees for him is not what is in the history books.
and that makes sense, and that would make sense in the confines of the question. And if that's the case,
that's fine. I'm fine with any reading you guys have on this, honestly.
I don't know. Should I cause trouble or should I be hopeful?
No choice.
Oh, thank you. I will be hopeful, and I will.
Besides, I can't be wrong.
You have literally been wrong because of things that you've done, but.
No, I meant in Joe's eyes.
Oh, I see. Well, that's accurate.
I will say that Joe kind of not Joe will take it as she's asserting that in the future I am not that person that's been described, and that is definitely a future that I want. And Joe will nod and even actually smile.
Not his go-to move.
Smile with the big gorilla fangs.
Yeah. Which is why it's not his go-to move.
And so I will take that as I will express that as an affirmation of the future that she's offering. So that would be take.
Cool. So
take potential.
Yeah, mark potential. I already added a team to the pool. But not necessarily, strictly speaking, touching on any of the stuff that you guys have been hoping to touch on.
No, not necessarily at all.
So, Roddy, is it okay if I bring you in here, or Kiln, or because Kiln, do you have questions?
I thought I was here, but okay.
I was trying to figure out the best time for you guys to walk into this whole thing. Sort of take it all in at a glance and then say something very Roddy. For whatever value of
Roddiness.
Whatever value of Roddiness that would imply, but I don't want to. Kiln hasn't had anything to say yet, so
That's fine.
Does Kiln have burning questions to know about the future of your past or the past of your future?
Kiln's already dealing with current, current, problems in the future. Kiln does not need to, you know, worry about the future. Kiln is already dealing with current problems in the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future. Kiln does not need to worry about the future be looking that far ahead.
That's fair. That is fair. So can I? And I'm glancing sidelong at Roddy because he made this comment over here about I have a horrible idea. Thank you, Bill, and I want to know what this horrible idea is, or rather, I'd just rather watch it. So
I have horrible plans.
thank you. Perfect. So you can kind of walk in here with Gothwitch, and you see all these names kind of up here, and there's Venn diagrams, and there's lines, dotted lines, and not so dotted lines, and you know, Tahi's up there, and Aliad's up there, and somebody's written next to it, sitting together at lunch, and there's a weird some sort of dotted line diagram thing from Surge. Basically all this stuff. It's got a label up top for, I don't know what it's labeled.
The top just says Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, because it's always Bacon.
It's always Kevin Bacon. But you basically can, so what you've walked into, I will just say.
I know what I've walked into.
Yeah, you've walked into this thing. What do you do?
Are we trying to do Met's memory thing? Because that always ends badly.
So Roddy walking right into the tentative smile of Joe and this bit of acceptance and this thing, and then Roddy walks in and.
Why do you say that?
I mean, has this worked out well for us yet?
It allowed us to save Sergeant Surge's reputation.
Is that really a win? So, what am I saying on this board? Do we think Keln's Fluvis dude is going to take over like Elude and Sergeant Surge?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about this, because we've been filling in these blanks, but I haven't really heard any, certainly from Met, any theorizing about like, well, okay, how is this going to shake out if this is these people? Like, what horrible thing happens? And this is Roddy immediately jumping to that, which I think is.
Roddy's really good at breaking down things into like points.
Matt, how does that, or Kiln, honestly, because this immediately touches on Kiln's thing. Like, he comes in here and says, like, so what is Fluvis going to take over Sergeant Surge and Aliad next? Which, I mean, had that horrible possibility even occurred to you?
Well, I mean, previously when I saw this, he only kind of targeted, or
Nega's people.
Yeah, he could only do this with Nega's people who, for these purposes were bit more created, bit less
Yes.
conscious.
So
In that regard, we had never, had instances of them taking over some other beings. I don't know how he managed it with this Gollum guy. Maybe his powers, but it's hard to. I have no idea. Anything's possible at this point.
So you're saying that your Fluvis dude can take over a group of people who are made by other people, and we've now seen that it's worked on Golem,
Who's not
similar-ish.
He's similar in like
he's not flesh and blood.
that's accurate. His origins are very different, but yes, carry on.
So now we have these other two people who are just made by other people, but also have that whole not flesh and blood thing going on.
That is a horrifying possibility. I'm not sure. Actually,
Do we got to worry about Alex's arms?
now, so just quick survey around the room for everybody. How horrifying are these possibilities as Roddy presents them to everybody? How much of a shock are they? I'm not saying like, is anybody taking a powerful blow? That's not what I'm asking, but I'm just like, are these possibilities that you have considered? I will
Alex will just chime in with, "Hey, my legs are bionic too."
So we got to deal with everything but your torso.
Hey, my head is where the action is.
No, if you're punching me, the fist is where the action is.
Excuse me, sir. My brain is up here. Anyway, although there is a secondary brain in both shoulders.
You know, I see what you're driving at, but you're also like seriously othering these people.
No, maybe.
Yeah, no, and you can look at Gothwitch, and she kind of gives you this like, and then maybe.
I'm just saying we don't know like what Fluvis's deal is.
Accurate. Matt, while he's pointing this out, I mean, because my impression has been like you're kind of aware that these people are central to the thing, but the details are still hazy about how all this crap went down, or even what was done to prevent it that caused you guys basically to flee the planet, or even if it was stopped, and maybe that's why you fled the planet. So from your point of view, having like been kind of putting the pieces together and having him come in and go, well, what about this, where does this land with you? Like, how, like, this is on like, no. Or is it like, oh my God?
I think it's kind of mixed because sort of my impression from the kind of things we've done around the research roles and things like that. My impression has always been that kind of the root of this is a misuse of the ancients' technology. So I don't know.
Well, and Fluvis is, as we learned from Kiln, how should I put this? I mean, and Kiln, check me if I'm misstating this or overstating this. The only actual ancient walking around right now, the way Kiln would categorize it.
Yeah, that'd be accurate. Most of them just kind of, fucked off before the war.
Whereas people not so much in the know would have thought of Kiln as the ancient. And Kiln's like, no. Also no.
No, I mean we already kind of, when I say ancient, I mean the pre-Kiln.
Right,
ancient.
right, gotcha. No, yeah. And your thing, I think, so misuse of the ancients' technology, A, and B, I feel like one of the other things that seemed to be a big risk there was something about sort of transfer of consciousness, which is why Joe's thing.
That's technology.
Yeah, this is why Joe's whole like thing.
But it was transfer of technology into machines, not into, like in Joe's case,
A giant gorilla. You can say it.
a body. Since Dave and I just watched the Star Trek episode of
What a Little Girl's Made Of.
I think it's quite appropriate for the discussions tonight.
Right. I mean,
for those that are not familiar, that's the one where the
It's all about people being transferred into android bodies. and
Well, yeah.
how that always ends in tears and Kirk using his logic.
So
Melting hands.
Flubus corrupted Golem seems to be something similar to what he did with Nega, or Nega's people, more accurately, far more accurately. Unknown about whatever they might have been dealing with in terms of transferring consciousness, but Roddy's assertion that, like, on the face of it, these guys seem to meet the criteria for somebody that this dude can mess with, certainly seems accurate. And that ties back into the whole, like, okay, and these are the people that are central on one side or the other of all the bad happening. All these things seem to kind of, I mean, whether or not you want to argue with it, it's kind of hard to. So either you need more information or he's right. One of those two things is probably true. Anyway,
Is that or is corruption's going up kind of like the nervous system complexity route?
Yeah, because Nega's nervous system, air quotes, wouldn't be much more complex than, like, the etching on a CPU chip. Tahi's an order of magnitude beyond that, but still different. And they're stone, and that's but so is a CPU chip.
Or it could just be like, well, the disease jumped from a bat to a snake, and then from a snake to a human being.
Right. Would that imply that whatever's going on with Flubus isn't happening on purpose?
I just make up the crazy theories. I don't actually know the implications of them.
Yeah, and also you sleep through biology, so, like, your analogies are like terrible, or at least you should feel bad about making them. This is Gothwitch.
Or suspect. How's that?
Suspect. You're sus.
Well, as I said before, I mean, when we're talking about history and my future, there's a lot of different things that, I can apply to that. There's a lot of moves that I can use to kind of make this clearer.
Yeah.
So. If we're looking for the next step here, besides hypothesizing whether or not, the world is doomed because of an ancient evil infecting progressively more complex inanimate objects, or not that. What's what I'm looking for?
Non-biological people.
There you go. Non-biological people. That's pretty good, and not so othering. Hey, look at you being all not progressive or being progressive
not
and not
awful?
totally not and being all not awful.
I have more practice at one than the other.
So this is Gothwitch, and so also hi. He brought me down here because you guys seem to have a better idea what's going on than everybody else, and I'm getting that it's kind of funny and ironic, but I'm still here.
Welcome here. I mean,
so this
obviously this is important.
So this Flubus guy is just like some ancient evil big bad. Am I with you? Am I getting that right? And you.
Everyone looks at Kiln.
Yeah. Is that kind of?
To put it simply, yeah.
Okay. So he's an idiot. She's pointing at Roddy, but it does make me want to ask you a question. Have you ever actually met them? Like, seen them?
We all look at Kiln.
I mean, I'm still alive today,
So
so
that's a no.
that would be a no. I know of no one who actually has seen fluids and lived. I mean, Tahi maybe because she had more dealings with the elder race, but
I mean, uh,
How do we know it's Sluvis?
no. How do we know it's a? I mean, what if it is a virus? What if they are? Are they just kind of
I mean
like a virus of the brain?
this virus then directed armies.
Well, okay. I mean, there's things that like take over beetles and stuff and down in the jungles and like mind control them and stuff. Like,
Let's have a quick talk about Nekig, the city that walks, and how it was described as an army.
I mean, yeah. There's like the toxoplasmosis thing that makes people like cats, especially my parents. Oh my god. Uh, I mean, maybe it's. I mean, I don't know, but maybe he's. Is that a thing? I mean, is it just a virus that hates everybody, and that's why they're so old, or that's how they're so old? Maybe they've only ever always been their army. I only just keep in mind that I'm basing all of this off of a whiteboard and what the idiot child over here just said.
So I left a brief thing in Roll20 chat.
Oh, okay.
That was a horrible thing to say about Kiln.
That's a horrible thing to do. I mean, it could be. I mean, or it could be. Is that something that is that something? It doesn't sound like something Alex would say, but it's something that Alex is thinking about. I mean, this could
I'm
be.
throwing it. I'm presenting this as a player suggestion in case nobody else has any
Oh,
better. So there you go. I, the player, can tell you how it would explain everything, but this is not my storyline, so I'm staying out of it.
how? Which thing? The thing that you just said, or the thing that,
Yeah.
or the I mean, I don't know that what you're saying and what is currently being bandied about by Gothwitch even actually contradict one another. It could just be one's an evolution of the other, or a modern application of the other. Hell, it could be somebody's like first quarter development plans, as far as I know. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter right now. I mean, you this bad stuff. I mean, Golem, you know, beat up. She started to say killed, but like, hurt a bunch of people. And so maybe it's just, figure out how to stop them. And then if they actually end up having a face, punch that face a lot.
I'm good with that.
And I mean, like I said, I'll help. I kind of don't know anything about any of this, but I really, 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 really don't like them because of what they did today. So I mean, I'll help if I can help, even if it's just running interference for you guys to do whatever it is that you're gonna do. I mean, I'll shut up now and stuff. I just kind of wanted to. I mean, Roddy brought me, so I'll just sit over here, and she tries to pick the chair that doesn't look like it's gonna collapse or roll out from underneath of her.
Well, and of course, that's where Med says, no, of course you're most welcome here. I think this is, this is great. Um, I'm wondering if now is the time to try and fill in that last slot. In my memories, or
I
at
mean,
least see if this raises something up, raises something.
well, I
My
mean, yeah, I
memories.
mean, if there's a lot of murmuring going on around here of like, well, maybe it's this, and maybe they're this, and geez, Kellen, did you ever actually see the guy? Oh God, well that okay, what that would mean that they could do, and blah, blah, blah. And all that's kind of, it's like, well, if it's a virus, but it can infect stone, then it can affect kind of, geez, what couldn't it infect? Um, yeah, all this murmuring kind of going on while all this stuff is happening. So yeah, I mean, any one of these things could trip off a memory or a fugue state that causes a memory to come back or anything like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that whole and some of the stuff about the I'm gonna throw this a little bit at Joe. There's some stuff about how the technology has to do with transferring personalities, or some of the tech seems to do that, and it was used in different ways, like Kiln coming forward in time and sort of keeping preserved, but you're moving around. And if this thing is just one thing that inhabits a bunch of people, then maybe that's part of that same technology. And anyway, a lot of that stuff is going on. So, maybe some bad feelings there for Joe because of what the implication is then about that applied technology. Not that you didn't already have bad feelings about that stuff. Anyway, all of that stuff going on. So yeah, Matt, if you're inclined or you feel like this is a time when where the penny might drop, by all means, drop it.
Yeah. I think this is probably a good time for that penny to drop. Oh,
What do you do for this?
it's just a roll.
It's just a roll.
Hmm.
A roll of rolliness. Remember somebody. Oh, that's right. You roll. It's got the little built-in dice, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Bloop. Bloop for the dice roll. Oh my God. Remember someone. You remember everything about them from DNA up until the previous afternoon. Met. Let me look at this thing. Remember somebody. When you push yourself to remember a version of someone that exists in your future, mark a condition and roll memories. On a hit, you connect who they are now to who they are in the future. Oh, it's because memories is based on how many of these things you have filled in, right?
Yeah, that's why the plus gets up high.
Yeah, it's
You
crazy.
start at a negative, and then each time you
As the pennies start to drop, they drop heavier.
faster.
Yeah. Tell you
So you
what.
tell us the Goth Witch is the leader?
Choose. That's awesome if it would be. Choose the role that they fulfill in the future, and the GM will tell you about their future self. On a 10 plus, ask a follow-up question. On a miss, they're not at all who you thought they would be. Etc. It doesn't matter. So 10 plus. Ask a few. So choose the role that they fulfill in the future, and I will tell you about their future self. On a 10 plus, ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, and this is where I think I'm gonna turn to the group for a little bit because I don't have a specific image or person in mind. They said normally this is, you're looking at somebody and you're saying, do I remember this person, right? Given that we have, a whiteboard full of names and a room full of people and lots of discussions and memories going on, I am open to kind of thoughts and suggestions from the group on this, or I'll take it on and point at somebody as the leader of this.
Ah, I have my horrible suggestion to make now that we have led up to this position.
All right, your horrible suggestion.
All right. Amethyst Fairy.
Is that Goth Witch's alternate?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I knew it was, but
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that's horrible. I love it.
All right. Yeah, was able to take down Golem. Just doesn't remember doing it. That's all I got.
And I think some of what's indicative here, indicated here, is
Well, we just have one role left
yeah. Well, it's
for her to
it's
fill
the
in.
leader.
But they
It's
have to be the leader. The question is who. And
Right.
I usually do this where I have the who first and then put them in.
right. In this
Um,
case, it's got to be the leader, and that's the thing. And the indication here, because this is a thing where badness was prevented, or at least these whatever happened with this series of events led to the somewhat doomed mission of sending everybody in a ship off world, and in some ways with technology that seems to have been again somewhat derived from, in weird ways, or at least evolved from some of the tech that is out there that kills people use, things like that. Given that,
If Tahi's the architect,
yeah, Tahi's the architect, Sergeant Surge being the martyr, like did something to stop, what was going on, sacrificed themselves in the process. It's led by Amethyst Ferry. I feel like in this scenario, like the ship escapes and in the same way that Amethyst Ferry, I just love that that's the name, I'm going to keep using that, was able to kind of protect everybody from Gollum, at some powered up level, is able to prevent this threat from pursuing the people on the ship. Unfortunately, the mission itself to find some other place to be has not been going well. So how do we, how do you prevent that so that that's not the thing that happens? Because apparently, I mean, while Sergeant Surge is officially the martyr, certainly it seems as though, like, okay, Amethyst Ferry, like, kept everybody, all the bad guys here so that they couldn't come after us, so that Fluvis couldn't make his way onto the fleet or whatever. Stuff happened there. That would be Amethyst Ferry. Other suggestions, other things like that. But somehow the leader is directing the actions of Tahi, the architect, and Sergeant Surge and all this other kind of stuff. How can as bad things are happening? So how do you prevent it from being? How do you prevent whatever Fluis is about to do from resulting with the powers that be on the planet saying, okay, F this, it's all horrible, let's get some people on ships and get the hell out of here? Probably becomes the question. Excuse me.
Well, I think, yeah, that's.
But that's only if you guys are. I like her as that.
well, you can cut an interesting line between saying, yeah, we know that Gothwitch's alternate, powered up version is Amethyst Ferry, which doesn't necessarily mean that they're the same person. The fact that she doesn't actually remember clearly what happened when she changed into Amethyst Ferry, and that she really dislikes doing it, could indicate they're different
people,
individuals for purposes of this match. Or it could be, just that Gothwitch / Amethyst Ferry is the person here. But it makes great sense because now that she's been brought into this and given her initial contact with Golem and her adjacency to the group.
I just thought of something for the whole irony of Gothwitch and Amethyst Ferry. What if she's, in essence, sort of the ancient antibody, in that, just like, Fluvis is taking over these people, she has a history of doing the same to protect against him.
So that's where the Crisis Sorceress line comes from.
Oh,
I was just looking that up to confirm it. Yes, Crisis Sorceress Amethyst Fairy.
that's
And not the first Crisis Sorceress. Just the latest.
Okay. Yeah, let's go with this.
I kind of love how that all goes together. Okay, so she's saying all this stuff and sitting down and having made this, sort of these observations about what must be, what might be going on, and blah 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 blah. And I just kind of came down here because of everything that happened today with, I guess, me and Golem. And I mean, I'll just ask, who in the team notices from Met's expression or body language or complete lack of body language or whatever, who feels like they would realize that Met just remembered something and is not saying anything, or is saying, I don't know, did you suddenly, because I don't know if that's something that you immediately drop on Gothwitch. Maybe it is.
Well, since I haven't told anybody else directly, even Tahi, when that's happened, it's not something that I'm likely to just blurt out.
Nope. However, Roddy is the master of body language.
And so, just so you know, I'm going to take the condition afraid to go with that, because all the pizzas kind of go kind of in together.
Sure.
Alrighty.
So the other interesting, I mean, yeah. Oh, so Roddy, master of body language, gotcha. What about Alex? Because honestly, this was getting some kind of reaction, some kind of result from Met was sort of the point. Does Alex twig to this, catch this, that something, whether it be via the tension in her?
Well, my mundane is -2, so no.
I say no. Joe?
My mundane is -2 as well. So
we already established that you're always watching Met, so
that's true. I am watching Met, but my mind has wandered to some strange places. So I'm not going to notice that her eyes widen, that the delicate perspiration on her forehead beads, that she seems to glow with a strange glow.
Yeah, you're not going to notice
maybe
that.
she's thinking about me.
He's composing poetry about Met in his head.
obviously. Okay.
Okay. Kiln, anything?
Um,
You seem the least likely to have noticed, but maybe.
God, at this point, who knows?
Or are you still rocking and reeling from the thing of, like, maybe your big boogeyman that you had to deal with for years and years and years wasn't actually even a person? Like,
No, because
or does that revelation like go, that actually explains a whole lot of shit?
that doesn't rock me as much because one, I'm not up to that point in biology.
I am.
But it, also, like, we had a different I don't know, notion of personhood
I get that.
and, beings. So, like, oh, it's a virus? Now I know what that is. We always just called him
A spirit, you know.
I was gonna say insert ancient expletive here, but
Oh, there you go. I like that. I like that too.
um, I mean, not saying I have the best mundane, but I'm not sure I would consider this like mundane
surprising.
happenings.
Well, yeah, it's more about reading the people or anything like that. But that again, I'm not pushing for it. I'm just curious if there's anything that's likely there. So, uh, um, uh, all right. So
So you as GM get to say what
Oh.
their future about their future
Okay.
self,
no, that's good.
and then I get to ask a follow-up question, and we all
Yeah, so let's go with that. Their future
I'll
self,
react.
their future self was in some way, shape, or form. As much as I mean, there's perhaps you could argue that there's an overlap of martyr here, but I think it's the same kind of thing. It's like basically somehow, and again, doomed generation ships leaving the planet. Things got bad enough, things get bad enough that out of desperation, the whole plan of like, let's just get some people the hell out of here and save the human race is set upon. Anybody who is suspect, and that basically means all of those, dangerous AIs, et cetera, so forth. Anybody who could be apparently suborned were, immediately ruled out. People plundered up. A great sacrifice was made by Sergeant Surge, but it was Amethyst Ferry. That has never been translated correctly. That name has never been translated correctly in your history books. It's never come across accurately.
Because no one believes
Because no one believe it. Like it's just like, oh, it's indicative of something. It must be some sort of code word for some defensive mechanism or something. In any case, Amethyst Ferry basically kept the evil away from the fleet so they could escape, and kept it bound to Earth, bound within Earth. Something like that. And, as a result meant that they couldn't go. They were left behind. And certainly not everybody was able to go. There was too many questions about too many people. Not everybody.
Well, actually, it's a little different than that. It's not like a global thing.
Right.
This is more like Elon Musk deciding it's time to leave the planet.
Yeah.
And taking the
pretty and
the Swedish models and the whatever other.
So what you're saying, as a save the planet tactic goes, it was actually kind of shitty.
It was a little bit selfish. We'll just call it that.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't really save the planet. It was save his ass, and I guess I'm gonna want some people with me. So
that's what happened to Powertronic.
Oh God. Jesus. It all comes together.
I like it. I like it.
Elon Musk taking all the supermodels with him into space.
Jesus.
I mean, that kind of fits what we've established so far.
I mean, I don't think that there's a lot of interest in my suggestion there, but I was going to say
I want to hear it. I do.
If you really wanted to go down that route, then Fluvis had been basically used by some inventor to pyrotechnology. That guy was the one who launched the colony ship. That was his plan.
So Fluvis was used to steal the tech and then ends up being like sort of left behind.
Or not
Yeah.
able to be controlled very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My plan goes horribly awry, and I got to unpack this. I got to do some processing.
My plan went horribly awry, but hey, I've got this cool technology I could use.
Anybody who has played any of Horizon Zero Dawn will recognize some of this plot. So.
I haven't, so I can
I
claim
haven't.
innocence, but there's some good stuff here, all things considered. So that's fun.
Like when you say Elon Musk, like I'm the sort of person who thinks, yeah, Elon Musk would totally try to take over Fluvis and use them as a tool.
Oh God, yes. Yeah.
So that's
I
Everyone's
mean,
like,
that's not any doubt, really.
There you go.
In many ways, we're lucky we don't have ancient evils just sort of lurking about.
But that's the suggestion that I made was also intended to provide something which I'm not really hearing clearly yet in this whole conversation, which is, well, how do we actually stop that shit?
right.
If there's this one dude, then the answer is you go stop that one dude, and that's very straightforward and comic booky.
Yeah, and it may be that we're past the point of the thing being under control, which is why it's out there in the world and doing horrible shit. Or it could be that it's like, okay, Golem was getting too close to my shit, and I had to do something, well, distasteful, but
It could even be, hey, Powertronic has this great idea. I could become the big hero if I can deal with Golem. Hey, this is actually just some sort of an infection. This would be a really cool technology, technological advancement, that could be used in all sorts of interesting ways. Oh, hey, now it's out of control. At least I've got a fortune that I can use to escape from Earth with fellow scientists and hot babes.
You're going to stab Roddy in the heart here. This is going to be great.
Oh no!
I mean, it could be that he hasn't actually gotten the whole Fluvis connection yet. But even as we're standing here talking about it, and Fluvis is trapped in Golem down in the basement, that could be exactly when it's happening.
So Powertronic is sitting there like, I really let this kid Roddy down. I need to do something. Oh, I know.
oh,
I like it.
Yeah, no,
No.
that's good. Also, I have already lost all faith in Powertronic, so it says so on my sheet and everything.
So if I'm tracking what you just said, what you're suggesting is that the whole bit with like the high tech person trying to leverage Fluvis didn't happen, and now Fluvis is out in the world. It could be happening right now.
It could be happening. Yes, it could be happening right now.
I need to scrape the digital petri dish that is Golem and do something with this because I'm a moron.
Yeah.
It could be an initial impulse to be heroic,
And
then sort of like this is something I could exploit and make use of, or oh no, now it's out of control. Maybe I should leave the planet.
And oh, Margie, this is the day when the HHL gets canceled.
Yep.
Oh no.
Jesus.
Oh no. So
You all thought it was because of Golem.
I will put this other thing in here too. For a slightly less horrible idea, Powertronic just was kind of told he was useless by all of his teammates during, getting yelled at for bringing a bunch of kids in to look at their cool stuff. And it's just like, no, I'm useful. I'm the tech guy. I can figure this out.
Yeah, but yeah, I think.
And then he Tony Starks the whole thing.
Yeah, is he Tony Stark or is he Lex Luthor with, or like he has delusions of being Lex Luthor? I've had that discussion incidentally.
Usually start in Ultron.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. It's actually been a discussion that I've had when I explain to people why I want an electric car, since I know people who have them, and why I want an electric car and don't want it to be a Tesla. And then I have to explain to the somewhat defensive Tesla owner, he's not Tony Stark. He's Lex Luthor. And y'all just haven't figured it out yet.
No. He's like Lex Luthor with like aspirations of being Doctor Doom.
The problem with all these analogies is that, like, Lex Luthor and Tony Stark both have charisma.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, somebody was like being all affronted a little while ago because it's like, well, geez, it seems like all he did was get the SpaceX program going so he could get a government contract to be able to like move missiles around. I'm like, yes, you actually thought it was about Mars? Come on, come on. Anyway, you know, I'm not gonna. I love that. First of all, I love every single part of this. Not least of all because it all seemed to have tumbled together in the last 25 minutes, and that's delightful to me. I'm not going to say that it's somewhat of that we've managed to put together a commentary on the modern, our current day by making the bad guy somebody who's essentially the bad guy by virtue of being greedy, stupid, and short-sighted, rather than being actually a mastermind. But
never attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity.
I mean, attribute. Well, except we have leaders today who are like, why not both? Why not malice and stupidity? Anyway, sorry, that's not necessary. It's been a long couple of days. Or as my daughter and I came to the conclusion today, this week has 23,000 days in it.
This hour
has 23,000 days. I would like it if we hit a month in 2020 that doesn't look back at the rest of the calendar and go, hold my beer.
I mean,
You think that was bad? Hold my beer. Because shit just keeps getting worse.
there are
And yet my
2 more
friend
months.
keeps telling me that the whole, 2020 bingo card is, overdone and
I do not say
Yeah.
that. Dad does.
Okay.
Also, your mic is up.
Also, the 2020 bingo card at this point in time would have to be the size of a basketball court. But all the squares would be the same size.
2020 bingo card is the only consistent meme through this whole thing.
Yeah, that's true. All right, sorry. That was a bit
Anyway.
of a tangent, but the whole like incompetently greedy yet cocksure villain just
You're down with that?
well, it just seems like we've reflected on a certain thing. I mean,
Well, and the other thing that you're not realizing is by making him the the whole reason why there's a ship at all, right? So this is my world, right?
yeah.
Means that like all of my sense of what my reality is totally like somewhere else because if you think about it, I will guarantee you none of this is the history I learned.
Oh God, no.
So now it's like the dear leader is somehow not only evil but like incompetently evil.
Jesus.
Wait, he's the guy that was sitting there cowering by the view screen?
Yeah. Wait, he's the guy doing the debrief in Wall-E. The human it's in like Consortium. Have you seen Wall-E yet?
We have not seen Wall-E yet.
Oh my God, go watch Wall-E because he's the guy.
Okay,
My God, you got to watch Wall-E.
we'll watch Wall-E this weekend.
Do it this weekend. It's necessary. It's now actually
Incredibly more necessary.
More necessary than it ever was.
who's the salesman in WKRP? Do you remember
Oh.
Les
that?
Nessman?
No.
No.
He's the news guy.
Right.
The
Salesman is the swarmy one.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been picturing kind of a caricature of Tony Stark as Powertronic, but honestly, that guy as Powertronic would make more sense in this context. and weirdly, kind of how I've been playing him. I can't remember the actor's name. He's still around
It'll
though.
come to us,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Well, when you see him, it'll be like, oh, that's he's. Yeah, spoilers. He's in Wall-E. Anyway. Okay. All right. So I have a little bit of unpacking I need to do.
Herb
mentally.
Tarlick.
Herb Tarlick. There you go. Herb Tarlick. Wait, is that the character's name or the actor's name?
That's the character's name.
The character's name.
The
Herb Tarlick.
actor is Frank Bonner.
There you go. Yeah, my God, I could actually take a young Frank Bonner and put him in Powertronic suit, and he would like totally track for this. Also, future Powertronic, who's the cowering guy by the screen doing the debriefing for Dear Leader. Jesus, what have we done? What have we wrought? Okay, so we have a thing. There is stuff. I want to throw a real quick monkey wrench into all of it. Oh God, I can't believe I just said what I said. I want monkey wrench. I want to throw a real quick monkey wrench into that by redirecting all of this stuff back to Joe a little bit.
I will remind you though,
Yes.
it is 10:30.
Yep. I'm monkey wrenching by dropping a cliffhanger.
Foreshadowing.
Yes, I'm dropping a cliffhanger. Hellbinder. Finally, like you get a knock knock, and the door is like, oh, okay, here you are. And here,
Hellbiter has come down to the Fortress of Attitude.
well, yes.
People are quickly running to the whiteboard and erasing certain things.
Or just kind of, Joe just sort of stands up and kind of spreads his shoulders a little bit. Sir, I can't, yes. Right. I'm glad you're all here. I think it would be best, and I have Princess, I have Arizella working on this right now. I think it would be best if you all very quickly settled on your next field trip for a little while. It would be convenient if you were on a field trip and unreachable.
Country, as it were.
Yes. And quickly before anybody tells us not to have you do that. Events are developing. Hello, Samwise. Samwise came up to say hello. So anyway, and that's where we'll just stop since it's 10:30. We'll stop with him saying, I think it would be really good if you guys were not here. Do you have some place you can go that's not here? Talk to Arizella. Off we go.
Yes, and we're not going to tell you where.
That is an additional excellent idea. Because I cannot be trusted.
Plausible deniability.
Because I cannot be trusted. Yes. And if it's all right with you, my dear, it may be good if you're not here as well. He says too. Gothwitch. Princess. What was it? Not Princess Amethyst. Amethyst Fairy?
Amethyst Fairy, Crisis
Sorceress, Amethyst Fairy.
That's the
But
best.
by the way,
There's a colon in
I
that
did
name.
not look at the full
Yes.
list of presidential candidates until I was at the Secretary of State's thing around election results. I want to know who the princess on our presidential list was.
That was pretty good. Although I have to hand it to the libertarian who put a VP up who's like would prefer to be referred to as Spike. That's a guy.
I went there, yeah.
Anyway, all right. So real quick, we can wrap up in good time. Yeah, let's go around. Joe, closer to the team, further away from the team, or damage yourself.
Absolutely closer to the team. Absolutely met.
Cool. Met. We'll play popcorn initiative for this. Sam, if you bite me, I'm going to be very unhappy.
Nom, 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 nom.
He
Bite him,
has
Sam.
Yes, sir.
Bite him.
when he gets hungry, he does like test nibble on your finger a little bit. Like, are you food? You're not food. I'm disappointed.
That is funny. I am going to say closer to the team.
You know, when the lady said that we're going to get Timothy Hay all over the house, you didn't actually have to make that happen. Closer to the team and who?
I'm actually going to say Sync. Because he actually had some thought-provoking things to say. Even though he was being still a bit flip on the whole thing.
I mean, also true. I'm putting pictures in the general chat, by the way, because
Because you should.
I should. So sync, excellent, cool. Sync, closer, further, self. Hello? Hello? Did I lose you guys?
No?
I'm
Oh,
here.
I'm
No?
still here.
Oh, sync. Sync. Closer to the team, further away from the team, more into your image of yourself. Did I lose Mike?
Mike's still on.
No, I completely lost track of things.
Okay.
Sorry. No,
So-
that was my fault.
Okay. All right. I'm just double checking.
Hey, how you
so,
doing?
So Mark, so Met is naming you as the closer to the team person, so you have work to do there. And having been named, I am now asking you closer, further, more into your own image.
Oh, it's me.
More into your own image of yourself?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that's easy. Shift your labels.
Yep.
Go
Alex.
Go Alex. Go Alex.
I would have said closer to Killen because we were probably sharing tendies on the couch.
Yeah, sorry guys.
So I will say into the image of myself.
Yeah. It's a yeah, you guys didn't get a lot going on. Although weirdly, although you didn't have much to go on, you're the reason you're the perpetrator of all that happened. That's a weird reverse.
That's exactly where an agent of Aegis should be.
And we'll wrap up with Kiln.
I'd probably say closer to Roddy.
Okay. Cool. Roddy, you have
All
more to
right.
do. Roddy, you have more to do.
Yep.
You get all the labels today.
Cool. Yeah, between this and the, incompetent, greedy, opportunistic leadership and the other supers game where people are protesting and saying defund oversight and everyone has to wear gas masks because no one knows otherwise nobody knows who's going to be infected by the brain controlling parasite. The parallels are thick, people. The parallels are thick.
You did that to yourself in a way.
I mean, this one, this was unlooked for, but the other one, yeah, that was totally my idea. I just wanted my daughter to have to draw all the characters wearing gas masks, which actually ended up turning up awesome, so that's fine. She did it in like.
I took today off and just declared it a pajama day. So.
Okay.
Your mic is up, Mom.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we could kind of
Better?
hear you, but yeah, we could kind of hear you better now.
No, I had it up so I wasn't breathing hard, and then forgot to put it back down when I started talking. I was just saying that's why I declared today a pajama day and took it off, and actually didn't consume much news all day, and started reading, rereading Etiquette and Espionage as like the most mundane possible book I could read, you know, contrary to what was going on in current events.
I will say, not necessarily as a recommendation or anything like that, but uh, appreciation. I have at some point in time. Well, this is me, I guess. Not everybody does this, but I had eventually consigned myself to saying, well, I'm always looking stuff up on this, so I will pay these people, this particular news app, for the fact that I keep wanting to, use their stuff or whatever.
Consume their media.
Consume their media. And I settled on the Gray Lady eventually, and so I've got a Times app and that kind of thing, and I get the daily morning update, and that's about all I get. I have one for schools too. I will say this in their favor. The last couple of days could have been a constant sort of a push notification hell. And quite the contrary, it has not been. It's actually been, they've been remarkably restrained in sending out little push notifications about, hey, we have a new news article. I think I've gotten maybe 3 today. So and so said something horrible, so and so said something less horrible, and they've called one of the states. Things like that. That's it, which is exactly the level that I want. I would like to know when a state is called, and that's kind of the beginning and the end of it. And I don't want to have to read other things. I don't want to read interviews from people running polling stations.
Well, or pundits like.
Oh God, no, and none of that.
Spending their time hypothesizing about what's going on. Although I did read one adjacent news article today, which made me giggle. Which was the judge who was like reaming the post office.
Oh yeah.
Not actually doing what he told them they had to do.
Indeed. Yeah, I that one, and that one was one that showed up. But it's been, I have to admire, and they basically is like, we're going to be very conservative. We're going to call it when it's been called, and we're basically going to default to what the AP finally says, because the AP is very conservative about calling or versus not calling. And they've been I admire their restraint, because with news agencies and the 24-hour news cycle, that is a rare.
Well, I think that everybody was very, very cautious about declaring states this year. This time around.
Well, I don't think it's a thing that has any precedent, just in terms of how do exit polls matter when so many
and they all knew that beforehand.
Yeah. Well,
but,
did they though?
Like, for example, in 2016, they called Wisconsin when Trump was ahead by less than what Biden was ahead of. So, they've been more cautious. The one that I was enjoying last night was a site that basically consolidated. It was the Times had a tracking page, which had all of the various outlets, and just kept track of who's called what state. Yeah, so it had ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox, the Associated Press, Rutgers, New York Times,
Fox,
all of them.
Fox, who called Arizona for Biden yesterday. Like,
yep.
What alternate reality am I in where that's the thing that happened?
News. It's Fox News. It's not Fox Broadcast.
Gotcha.
Like, Fox News has some of the is really a very good polling house. They have really good standards in their polling and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it was really fun to watch sort of when, different, it's like, oh, so-and-so just called this race. And it's like, well, yeah, nobody else has. I wonder when we're going to start hearing about that. So, I found it interesting.
I'm being very adaptable. I could be freaking out over the fact that the ancient enemy that killed so many of my people was nothing more than a virus, but no, I'm rolling with it. I'm flexible. Also, what's a virus?
We just declared Alaska.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
It's Alaska. I can declare
I'm-
No,
lots of things about Alaska.
I just noticed that and they broke it into solid blue and solid red, and then interesting states. But yeah, for some reason,
mean-
Alaska is still not officially called.
some
Yeah.
group called California right after it dropped.
That was pretty funny.
So
Zero
I
crumb
mean-
coded. We're calling it.
We're calling it at 7 a.m.
And they have to wait till the polls are closed.
Yeah.
Sort of interesting. It looks like Rutgers uncalled Wisconsin.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, who can say what else is going to happen?
But anyway,
I am actually fascinated because this is an election that isn't being counted in a way that's been counted in before. And from that point of view, purely academically, which it's more comforting to look at it that way because then you have to think about all the other shit show stuff going on. It's just interesting. Like there's a whole different kind of thing happening with all that, and that's kind of interesting.
well, and I discovered a lot of really cool
I should
stuff
stop
with
recording.
our state, our Secretary of State and